This episode is proudly supported by Pepe Sayer Australian Cultured Butter.
At Pepe Sayer, we focus on quality. So if someone comes into your restaurant and they see you're using Pepe Sayer, they know immediately that that is a quality product you've got in front of you on the table. And that comes from a decade of just doing quality butter day after day.
For more information, go to pepesayer.com.au.
I just think the standard in Australia is amazing right from the top. Cafes, the standard of food quality is unbelievable. I've recently just been back in the UK and Ireland, and you don't see it.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Sydney is known for its incredible beaches, ocean views and waterways, and there have been many venues come and go that take advantage of the incredible locations. Some, however, have lasted decades in iconic locations to not only become a key destination restaurant, but important to the culinary history of Sydney too. Alan O'Keefe is the head chef of Catalina in Rose Bay. Alan, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all good. How are you?
I'm good. It's great to get you on the show. You're part of a huge team in one of Sydney's most influential restaurants. What's things like there at the moment?
Yeah, it's going really well. It's going great. Yeah, we're into our 29th year now. It's great. It's still going extremely busy. We were closed down recently for a bit of a renovation. And as soon as we were opened, there was queues at the door literally to get in. And it's been going extremely well.
What's it like being part of such an iconic venue that's, been so influential over generations?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I come from Ireland, and I didn't obviously know much about the restaurant at all, but it's the first place I arrived from a trip through Asia, and literally had no money and had to get a job straight away. So it was day one, came and found it, and they had an ad in the paper, and I just went straight for it and met up with the head chef. I've been there ever since. I've been actually 14 years now myself, and started right at the bottom in there in the larder section, and just fell in love with the place. I mean, it's just where it is amazing. Just like where I trained back in Ireland, where literally the kitchen in the hotel was under the car park, like in the dungeons of the building. And then to come to Sydney and be on one of the most beautiful harbours in Australia is amazing. It really is. And yeah, just fell in love with the place.
Do you feel pressures given the sort of history of the family and the venue and the importance of the restaurant? Yeah,
it definitely was. I did come in at the start, and it was pretty intimidating. I mean, I met the owner at the time. It was still the same owners, but Michael McMahon was there when I started. He's unfortunately passed away now, but he was there right till the end, and he obviously knew a lot about the industry, but was quite I don't know how to say. He didn't mince his words. It was it was very interesting to meet him the first time. And you just learned, you just had to go on with it and try your best. I mean, I don't think he knew my name for the first 4 years I was there. He had to kind of just get stuck in. And I do remember the first time when I was working in the kitchen and he started complaining. It was just as simple, because I was in larder making just a tomato salad. And he came up and he was like, "Who the fuck put this shit on my plates?" I'm like, "Ooh, that's me. Get this off the fucking ton." And I obviously took it and I threw it in the bin. He's like, "What are you throwing my fucking tomatoes in the bin for?" And I'm like, "Oh no." Here we go. But he was just all about the standard, the produce. Now he knew it. He honestly did. I've worked for some places where the owners didn't really have a clue, but he was all over everything, knew. So it was better just to follow. And then after a while, probably after 5 years when he started, I gained trust, and then just kind of started, working well, and got the sous chef role, and then finally the head chef role.
Give us a sense of the scale of things there. So how many staff are we talking about, and how many people do you get through the venue in a week?
It's a big enough team. We've about between 20, 25 chefs in the kitchen. And and then front of house between casual and full time, there's probably another 50 altogether. It's a big team, and there's a lot of turnaround, a lot of people can't. It's a busy restaurant. A lot of people can't keep up with the pace. It is, and we'd probably do between when it's busy during the summer, we're doing about 300 people a day. That's It's I know there's a lot bigger venues in Sydney, but we do 3. It's all a set menu now after COVID that we're doing, and it's 3 courses for everyone. So it's busy and it's a pump, but it's going pretty well, I have to say. There's a lot of very good people in there.
You're leading the kitchen team and helping develop the menu as well. Is that different now, given that set menu thing? Tell us about sort of the menu development and what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's definitely given some new challenges, because obviously before we were doing an a la carte menu that people would just choose, but now it has to be. It's just more from a costing point of view that you can't price everything individually. It all has to kind of be spread and kind of balance in between each dish when people are paying a set price, to try and get that and try and make each dish stand out for itself equally is a bit of a challenge. But I think we've done quite well. And we always find the vegan, vegetarian options quite difficult to try and justify the same as what everyone else is having when they're not having expensive proteins and stuff that really does build up the cost of a dish. So we've actually, instead of, I know a lot of people, and there's a lot of people at the moment kind of, I know there's a famous Aussie chef that barred vegans from the restaurant, which is tempting sometimes, but I think it's more of a challenge to actually get it done and do it right and put a big effort into it. It's actually going to become a lot more rewarding. I had someone in last week and he said it was the best vegan meal he's had in his whole life, which was great. It's great to see. Great to hear about.
I want to explore a bit of the history of the building and also your food and what you're doing there at Catalina sort of shortly. But take us back to when you were young. Where did you grow up and what sort of role did food play for you?
I grew up in Dublin. And I didn't originally. I started after school. I always enjoyed cooking, but I was talked out of it by by my mom and by a few other family members saying that it's not just go to school, get a degree and do that. And so I did. I kind of followed that line and finished school and then went to college or uni, as you call it here, and I was doing marketing, but I just was not invested at all. I just I'm still kind of doing stuff, always cook at home. And I did take a year off and go traveling, and I came back. I was like, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to go. And so I'm going to give cooking a try. And I did. I went to still is one of the best hotels in Dublin. It's called the Merrion Hotel. And and just applied for a job there as an apprentice and did a course in college as well, and started from there. And it was it was tough. It was really tough. I remember going for the interview with the executive chef at the time, and he's like, why would you come here? It's one of the toughest when you have no experience. And I was just like, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it right. I might as well learn now. And I think he kind of respected that answer and just went for it. That was a very tough kitchen to work in. It's not like you can't behave like that anymore in kitchens, but it was quite hard. But still, I think the passion and me wanting to do it kept me there, kept me learning.
Do you have any stories of what it was like in that kitchen for you and maybe what you learnt? Yeah,
I mean, there were some very, very tough people to work with. I think there was a few times I can still the executive chef was more like a kind of drill sergeant in the army than a chef. He used to line us up in the morning, and we all stood against the wall in the kitchen along the cool rooms, and he'd check everything like our uniforms, our neckties, shave. We weren't cleanly shaven. And there's a few times I lived a bit far away. He'd get up really early in the morning, like shave and go to work. But by the time he'd go, you'd check it and everything, you know, it was a bit. He'd be like, "What the fuck is this, young O'Keefe? Get out of my kitchen." We sent down the road to get a razor and come back in. I can still remember this, hear his screams. I still have some nights of him just losing it. Yeah, he definitely controlled that kitchen very well. I mean, I learned a lot, and I learned a lot in my teach me, because there's a big kind of discussion now of that. Is that style, was that the only style of controlling and managing a kitchen? And I do remember him losing his and getting angry at everyone, and then screaming at the guy in charge, of the sous chef, and like, "Where were you? Where you didn't see it? Why didn't you see what was going on?" And me kind of thinking to myself, "Why didn't you see it? Where were you? You were sitting up in your office." And I do kind of have that day. Like, I'm a head chef, and I think you catch it in the morning if you're in the kitchen and you're walking around and you're checking everything and watching what's going on. And if something does go wrong in the past when the food comes up, it's partly your responsibility as well that it wasn't caught. But it's still, I don't know, still sometimes then I think you see kitchens and some people can be very sensitive these days. You can't even have a discussion with people about making mistakes. And I think there's a balance there in between
What were some of the important venues and people that you worked with as you started to build your career?
Well, I actually stuck in the Merrion Hotel for 4 years and got in and actually got qualified. And then I decided to come to Australia and try. I was only going to travel for a year and take a year out again, but didn't. I ended up working in Catalina, and then I took 6 months off to go and work down in Melbourne, and I worked with another very interesting chef down there. It was a great restaurant, though. He was a great chef, and it was a 2-out restaurant, I think, at the time. But he was a very intimidating chef as well. I mean, the first time I met him, we were all in the kitchen, and the first time I met him, sorry, there will be a bit of bad language in this, but I've just listened to your Gordon Ramsay one, so I don't think you're too worried about that. He came into the kitchen, and they were all saying, all right, you'd feel the tension of everyone in the kitchen waiting. He's like, "Oh, chef's coming," and he comes in, bursts the door, and he's like, "I've never seen a room full of so much guns in my time, apart from that brothel I was in Thailand. At least they were good to look at." And everyone just like goes around, and it's like that. To me, it's like, no, I don't like this. Isn't the way you should do it and talk to people and it's I worked there for 6 months just to see, and I was offered to stay on, but I felt one way. I had to pick up some sponsorship to stay over here. So it's like, I don't want to feel like siling your soul away to work for something like that for 4 years and everything. So I gave the owners of Catalina a call again to see if they wanted to do it, and then just came back. Apart from any other places, I kind of just went around myself back in Ireland, worked in some small restaurants and stuff, cooked at home a lot. Just this role has probably been my most, and I think sticking to the same place has been so much better because you can develop while you're there.
So how much has the restaurant changed in the period of time that you've been there?
It's changed a good bit. You have to keep on changing, and I just think the standard in Australia is amazing right from the top. Not only right from the top, but cafes and everything. Like, the standard of food quality is unbelievable. Like, I've recently just been back in the UK and Ireland, and you don't see it. It's just not insulting the industry over there or anything, but I just think Sydney, especially, and Melbourne and everything, there's so much that goes into it, and there's just, the standards are so high. So to keep up with that constantly is always a challenge. I think every time with the menus, since I've taken over, I always try to move up a notch each time and not just rest. Every time we do a new menu for each season, I kind of feel like I'm push it a little bit more and push the kitchen, and then there's a little bit of pushback sometimes from chefs in the kitchen going, it's okay now, but when we are doing 300 people on the weekend, it's not going to be so. I'm like, come on, we can do it though. Like if it really is going to be a problem, we might scale back, but if we can do it, there's no point in doing all this if we're not trying our best. So I think that's part of it.
Tell us about, you mentioned the benefits of working in sort of one venue for quite a long period of time. Tell us how you've changed and what the benefits have been over the sort of 14, 15 years that you've been there.
I think one of the main things is it makes you watch your own progression and the way you behave yourself as opposed to sticking to different environments. So I feel that you go in, you kind of find a way and you find... I know it's hard to explain. You're just going to go with the flow of restaurants. But I found myself, the hardest part was to keep myself progressing and watching, especially when you become a head chef and no one's screaming at you anymore, apart from the owners, to regulate yourself and to keep on pushing and everything is a lot more of a challenge. To keep your food relevant and interesting is what I mean. I think it really forces you to push and keep on going, as opposed to just moving to a new venue and taking what you can from there. It makes you actually produce a lot better. That's what I think I mean by that.
You work closely with the executive chef, Mark, there. Tell us a little bit about him and how your roles work together.
Yeah, he's been there a long time. Yeah, we get on very well. We kind of... we've separated the roles a bit. Like, obviously, is there in the kitchen and always getting advice, but with the kitchen and the big team, there's a lot of admin and there's a lot of stuff to be done in the office. He's kind of would he tell me I might go a bit too crazy sometimes with some ideas of what we can do or what we can achieve, and he's the one that kind of helps me pull it back in and go, maybe just rethink that one, because you might not of like filleting fish at a table and then putting it when it's a huge day, or any type of ideas I might have. He definitely would. We're very good at trying stuff together and discussing. And we're very similar ideas and tastes of the way it should go. I do think, it's our relationship, that we can work quite well together, has helped very well. So we both agree in the same style of management. We don't come in and we don't just lose our minds. If nothing, we can help people and are there from the start and don't have that style of kitchen. And it definitely is. I think it's a great kitchen to work in, because I remember I used to go and I was dreading being in there. You were working and just on edge the whole time. So actually, I feel if it's a kitchen that you're working in, you're spending 50, 60 hours a week in there. Why not try and make it an environment that people want to be in, as opposed to that? So we both definitely agree with that.
Tell us a little bit about the food there at Catalina, and is there a couple of dishes that you can take us through?
We kind of have under the modern Australian heading. We have a lot of different stuff. We definitely get a lot of Mediterranean influences. Me being from Europe, I was always very interested in French, Italian, Spanish, that style of cooking. When we come over here, you see this huge amount of and so much diversity. We do on the menu now. There's so many different influences. We have a Japanese style tartare dish, and then we have some old school French dishes, serving a marron with a beurre blanc, and you kind of pull from everywhere, but still nicely balanced, I reckon. There's no real. I don't think we have much boundaries what we're going to do. If we can. I don't think we just label ourselves if it's good. We've got a lot of people in the kitchen as well from different backgrounds that can influence. And we just kind of strive for the quality more than anything, more than the style. And we have really good relationships with our suppliers. We get the seafood is amazing that we can get in, and we get deliveries every day. Like I talk to him more on the phone than anyone, even my own wife. The fishmonger is usually the first person I talk to in the morning. I think my wife gets pretty jealous. She's like, your boyfriend's on the phone again. As we talk about 3 or 4 times a day. He's actually telling us what's in, what's good, what we should be getting. And that's kind of where more we focus it on the quality.
Is there a dish or two that you can take us through that sort of exemplifies your food and sort of what you're doing there at Catalina?
Yeah, we've had so many over the years, but I think there's a few dishes that have been on for a good while that we can't take off, and one of them I'd say isn't mine. There's a snapper dish, and it literally has been on since the start of Catalina's time, and it's a very extremely simple dish. We get in the fresh snapper in the morning, fill it and debone obviously everything, and it's just cooked with a garlic mash and a lemon caper beurre blanc, and it's delicious. You can't argue with it. Everyone loves it, and it's probably one of the most popular ones we have on the menu. But it kind of frustrates me a little bit in a way, because it's just there and it can't be taken, and it's like, and sometimes if we've a big enough menu, and if unfortunately the snapper isn't available, we have to take it off, and people come in and like lose their minds because it's not there, the locals. But it's all about the quality of the fish that we get in and the way it's done. And I mean, sometimes simplicity done right is the best thing you can have. So that's one. I do have a steak tartare. I think that kind of defines, from my background, I'm loving French food. We've done it as an entree. But instead, initially I started doing it because we were filleting and portioning our own tenderloins, and we had all this beautiful premium meat left over, and we're going to try and do something. But because when we went on and people were enjoying it so much, it's like this, I'm going to just I'm getting in tenderloins just for this, just to make sure this is perfect. So we're dicing premium tenderloin and putting it on, and serving just traditional accompaniments like with cornichons and capers and onion and everything, and then nice just the egg yolk that's presented at the table, and then they mix at the table, and I think it's really good. People enjoy that. But I think we've had some French customers in, and it's from that style of serving it with heaps of bread to eat with it. So my idea is, it's only a small little disc of a sourdough crouton I serve with it, just for the texture. So you're actually going to taste the meat and taste all the accompaniments. And it's not about filling up on the bread. It's actually enjoying so sometimes you get a bit of backlash from people saying that there's not enough to eat with that one. But I'll stick, and I'm going to be adamant that that's the way it's going to be done, because you're actually going to taste the food itself as opposed to just filling up. So I think that one's kind of defined the way I cook and the way I like to present the food.
Do you have any stories of the connections that you've made with producers, or producers that you sort of like to stick to with the sort of vast menu that you have? Yeah,
since I've been there, we've had the same supplier from the fish markets. They've been amazing. It's easy. I think not the same suppliers. It's actually the people you have the connection with. We've used a few companies, but when you get a rep that you've been working with for so long and they leave and someone else comes and doesn't have the same relationship, it makes you kind of think, it makes you change. And that's the only reason. We've had some great people. There's people that are just so into it and respond straight away and help you, and they have the same passion as you. That's the only way. So it's not the businesses, it's the people that you want. Some people are like, even our meat supplier at the moment, I could text him last night at like 11 o'clock and he was straight back to me after I was doing the ordering. And I mean, that's a big expectation of people, but it's great to have people that care as much as you. I also I've tried, since I've been here, joining or being part of a Good Fish project. I've heard, and it's just trying to be smart about the fish choices you're doing. I really like that one because it's the app that comes with it informs you a lot more. It's not only just making the right choices. It's not only about the sustainability or how much of the usually was only like stock quotas and stuff that would stop people from using something, but they take in everything into account of its effect on the environment, the fishing, on all the other wildlife around. And I think it's really interesting, and I think it's a really good guide, and something we do need to be as chefs to be a lot more conscious about what we're using and what we're taking.
As we all know, the last couple of years have sort of were turned upside down thanks to COVID and the pandemic. What's been some of the positive changes that you've had personally out of those circumstances, and also the industry?
I think it did give us a time to stop and think. Actually, where in Catalina, we obviously, the restaurant was closed, but we ran a takeaway service. I was so surprised with how busy it was and how many people were interested in actually coming down and getting. It was amazing, and it actually kept us all together as a team, which was great. And in that time, then we started developing and really talking about what we were doing. The excitement about reopening was really good, and we opened with a bang and just like we just really found it kind of more. I think before we were just kind of going along with the kind of going through the motions because we were so busy and everything, but it actually did kind of form us again as a team between the managers and the owners and everyone. We were all there in the same building when it was closed. It was like a really good bonding experience for all of us, and I think that's it. It was. I mean, I think definitely prefer that version. Because we didn't stop working pretty much. I felt we worked a little bit more going in every day.
You mentioned you grew up in Dublin and cut your teeth over there. How much have you changed since you've moved to Australia and become part of the hospitality sector here? I'm not too sure, but I think the way the type of food over here is some people are a lot more open to different styles of food and different. I think Ireland still can be quite closed to any introduction of some stuff. It's hard to explain. You just end up trying. Like there's some people in Dublin that would never have eaten sushi, you know. So it is maybe that is like it's kind of broadened the whole experience a lot. But I do hate the idea that people think that Irish food is. It's not really well known for. Everyone just thinks we just eat potatoes and chips all the time. But the actual home cooking and the passion about food is amazing. It really is. That's what I've learned. Some of my biggest teachers, and it sounds a bit corny, but my mom was one of my best teachers. Cooking with her and the way she used to do it, and I still use some of her styles of. Before not even being trained, she would everything when cooking, like roasting a chicken, would make sure she's deglazing everything and using and all like to boil the vegetables, and the water from the vegetables goes in for the gravy. That's what you're deglazing with, and stuff. And it was just like on a natural cooking style as opposed to something that's taught. And I always liked that. I always liked to know why you're doing something. I remember training when I was in the Merrion in Dublin and asking. There's very simple questions about when they were poaching eggs. It's like, why do you put the vinegar in the water? And the guy going, because if you don't, we'll be fucked, all right? Like, I want to know why. I want to know why. Then you can develop and learn and stuff. So I think that's always the way I've done. I always kind of go, I was like, well, why is this done? And I think if you learn the foundations of where it was developed and why people are doing it, you can develop it yourself and use it a lot better. Catalina's had an extraordinary longevity, as you mentioned at the top of the show, sort of 29 years, and it's in a stunning location. What do you think's so special about the restaurant and the offering?
I think obviously you can't go past with the venue where it is obviously one of the biggest draws out of it. I think our role from the kitchen and from everyone else who works there is to match that, or not even a match, to excel above that, for people to come in and go, we're coming, but then to be shocked by the food and the service and everything. I think that's what it is, and I think they have done it for years. It's the standards. the amount of attention that we put in, we all talk about it when we get the feedback from the customers, and we get everything, like in reviews, even the most ridiculous of reviews we get, we still watch and make sure that it doesn't happen. There's a lot of people that care. I think that's it. And they don't just ride off that idea that it is a destination venue and you're going to get people in. You want to make sure they come in, they're happy, and they'll come back again.
Well, you're part of an extraordinary restaurant that's got just the most incredible history. What do you love about what you do? I
love every day to go in, and it can be a different type of day. Every day you go in, we come up with some new ideas, and you're not stuck doing the same thing over and over. It's I do love coming in, and I said at the start, when I used to train in Ireland, I came in and you go into the dungeons in the basement, but here I come in and it's even looking today, going down, I was down this morning and just looking out of the harbour. It's a beautiful day, and I think it's just an amazing place to be. Yeah, and very happy with it.
Well, Alan, it's an honour to get you on Deep in the Weeds today to hear just a part of your story. Please keep in touch and we'll catch up again soon.
All right, thanks a lot. Cheers, Huck.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. And be well.